On this week's episode, we give you an update on wheat production and talk about ways to manage compaction and tillage in wet spring conditions. Stress on the farm is very apparent these days, and recent flooding events are causing additional stress. Learn how to recognize stress in yourself, your family members, and friends. We have exciting news. We shipped our first commercial load of Enlist E3 soybeans this week. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman from Merschman Seeds. Welcome to Cup of Joe, episode 22. Today we have, Turk Reginator here. We have Ben Pieper. Tommy Johns. Where's Tommy?
Well, I think he's out selling some soybeans to one of our competitors.
Hey, we love that, don't we? Well, anyhow, Tommy has an excused absence then.
Okay.
Well, anyhow, today we've got several topics to go over, and I'd like to start with Ben, our company agronomist.
Yep, this week has been a fun week for me because we actually get to enjoy some of the warm weather. The first thing that I did yesterday was I ran through and I looked at all of our wheat seed production acres. So we analyzed everything for stands. We went to see how many holes were missing in the fields from some of the flood out issues we had last fall and this spring, and I'm pleased to report that we're probably 98% of full potential for this year's wheat production.
Wow.
So
it surprised me.
It is good. We had some holes in some end rows, basically anywhere that water stood. But a lot of our wheat is positioned on really light soil types, so it drains really well. So
that's good. You know, we got this brand new Millie series coming out. It's the earliest wheat we've ever seen. So I mean, it's going to be like astronomical for farmers who want a double crop. Can move it farther north, and it's going to work quite well. And we got a new Julie series coming out. So 2 brand new wheats this year that look really exciting, so I'm glad to hear the production looks good.
Yep.
So these things must have really good wet feet, because I know last time I talked to you, you sent us some pictures of that wheat being kind of underwater in some places.
It was under 6 inches of water for about a day. So I mean, wheat's a tough animal. I learned from Joe, wheat has 9 lives, and I'm glad we only used about 8 of them this past winter.
This winter's been tough.
Another exciting thing about that Millie series, now that you brought that up, is I think it's one of the shortest lines we've ever grown too. So
short seasons, shorter in stature, yes.
Yep, we're going to be experimenting with a little bit of additional amounts of nitrogen this year to see if we can get a little bit of height out of it and really push the yield on our Millie series for our seed production. So I'm really excited about the wheat.
So how can somebody take advantage of those early varieties? What would be the advantage of planting those, Joe or Ben?
Well, you get them cut when they need to be cut, and you can hopefully catch that last session of rain to get double crop beans to germ. Then you get 40-50 bushel beans off of your double crop. I mean, because the hardest part about wheat when it drags out past the 4th of July is you don't get rain for the beans to germ. If you can catch a little bit of rain, you're off to the races.
And we'll also be able to move that double crop line a little farther north, and we're right on in the West Point latitude Iowa border with Missouri. That's kind of pushing it for double crop, and so you've got to get your crop in June if you're going to have any chance to raise a decent soybean crop.
Right. So that's really exciting. I think everything's going really well for there. We got all of our nitrogen and sulfur on for all of our seed production. We worked with a local retailer for all that. This piece of paper that I'm looking at right here is where our 4-inch soil temperatures are for the state of Iowa. We are at 44 degrees here in Lee County. In Des Moines, we are looking at 39 degrees, so there's a little bit of spread. 3 days ago, we were at 42, so we're gaining a little bit of heat, but that's going to change. Just as a reference for where we're at for the end of March, for the past 8 years here, the highest soil temp we've had is 54 degrees in 2012, and the lowest soil temp we've had is 36. So we're not off the mark by anything. It feels like, when's spring going to get here? But we're actually tracking fairly close to where we need to be. And as soon as we can get some water relief, a little bit less water, I think that spring's going to turn around fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think it's going to catch us very quickly. And so, key word, be ready.
Be ready. That is absolutely correct. So the second thing that I have here is tillage tips on how to fix a mess. And we all know that we had an issue, a mess, in many cases last year, whether it was no-till, conventional tillage, or what we have. And a lot of people post things about compaction and compaction issues, and they talk about things like, letting a little bit of air out of your tires, but they never really give you a good idea on what to do different in the springtime. And this article from Ag Pro that was released, I think it was released at the beginning of this week, is an excellent job. It gives you 11 different things, and I just kind of wanted to hit a few out of the 11 that I thought were really good actual tools that guys can use to think about, in a tillage process. So number one, and I didn't even think about this one, before you till, map your ruts. So go out through there and keep track of your A-B lines on where your ruts are in your guidance system so that you know where they are the next 3 years. Because a lot of time with tillage, you're not going to get rid of them in the first year. You're going to see those continued areas where water ponds or where the corn is stunted throughout those next 5 or 6 years. So if you keep track of that in your GPS systems, you're going to know exactly where those spots are, and whether your subsoil and your inline rip and you're doing anything like that, if you have those mapped in your system, you know exactly where to go back. I saw a lot of places where people didn't completely rip last fall. They kept, they just took the combine lines out. If you keep track of those, you might be in a pretty decent shape moving forward. So I thought that was interesting. They talk about avoiding tillage 14 or 15 inches deep. So basically, don't chisel plow to your maximum depth. And the reason for that is you're going to have, if the rain would happen to shut off after we get to a point where we could do chiseling, you're either going to be left with a 14 inches of dryness, or you're going to be left, if with a short rain, you're going to be left with 14 to 15 inches of muck. So if you're going to be doing tillage with like a chisel plow or anything like that, if you have to have, like you're in a corn on corn situation and you need to try to get rid of some of the fodder, or at least incorporate some of the fodder, try to go for that 6 to 7 inch depth, something that can dry out through sun and wind a lot quicker than 14 to 15 inches. So,
well, I know there's some ruts out there deeper than that. What do you do then, Ben?
Well, that's when you, another one of these suggestions on this paper is to plant a shorter season hybrid and try to get to it this coming fall with a subsoiler or an inline ripper, because that's when, we're never going to have the right conditions this spring, or we didn't have them last fall. So really what you want to do is you want to try to maximize your yield by shrinking things or maybe picking wetter corn so that you can go out there and get down below their compaction layer and at least try to get get right back on the right tracks to relieve the compaction that you have. But all we're trying to do is create a decent seed bed for this year and just get through this year without damaging things too badly.
One of the things that I've always been told about the ripper, whatever kind you're going to use, whether it be an inline or a V ripper or whatever, is that you're not doing that much good if you don't have good soil conditions. And so your comment about get out there early, chances are you're going to be able to do something that's going to have more impact on getting rid of those if you have more fracturing in drier soils than absolutely saturated soils.
Right.
So, and again, I agree with you 100% that this spring, with the saturated soils that we have, that the ripper's probably not it's not going to solve the problem. It might relieve some of the problems with getting rid of water and some of that kind of stuff, but it won't solve the problem. You're going to have to get some good fracturing in drier conditions in order to really work on it. And it takes, again, I've seen compaction from deals like this around for 10 years on GPS maps, and if you know where they are, you can see that history. You'll see them for a long time, but you can go a long ways with the right equipment at the right time.
Right. I think you've taught me this, and some of our people that we work with, our cohorts, with the inline ripper, you're not doing anything right unless everything behind you is lifting at the same time and dropping at the same time, because what you're doing is you're fracturing, you're pulling that entire line out and you're breaking the line up, because other than that, if it's too wet, all you're doing is leaving a smear line at the bottom, and the water hits that smear line and just ponds. So in most cases you level within 3 or 4 hours. So if you are doing a chisel styling condition, you have 3 to 4 hours. So what they're suggesting is having 2 different tractors out there, and this absolutely makes sense as well, something I didn't think about. You go out there with your disc ripper, your chisel plow, and you want to have somebody basically following you, because there's enough moisture left in the dirt to turn it back into a decent soil bed. But if those soil clods get too dry, you basically end up moving soil clods side to side with a cultivator or something like that. So having 2 different pieces of equipment in the same field is an excellent idea to prepare the bed that you need for moving forward. So, and lastly, you do talk about reducing air in the tires to make more flotation. Use tracks whenever possible. taking fluid out of tires, taking the weights off the tractors, try to get as much done with as little amount of weight as you got. So those are some pretty decent ideas, and I'll get this to Alex, this Ag Professional article that he can get posted at the end of our video. So
Great. Sounds good.
That's a little bit of what I had.
Well, thanks, Ben. That's always good information, things that farmers know, but just got to be reminded because every year's different.
Yep.
Turk, what do you have for us this week?
I want to talk a little bit, Joe, about all the disaster and the hardship in the country today. We know what's going on in Nebraska. It's in the national news. It's all over the place. As of right now, at my last count, Nebraska had 99 cities and 81 counties out of 93 that are declared federal disaster areas. So really, really tough conditions out there that a lot of us may not even be able to relate to unless you've been through something like that. So in Iowa, we've got 56 out of 99 counties that are declared federal disaster areas. So it's a widespread deal. It's not just a little area in up and down a river or two. It's widespread all over the place. So
and it's still ongoing too.
Yeah, and it's going south, and then now it's going into northwest Missouri. So I haven't seen a number on Missouri, and I know Illinois is affected as well. So there's a lot of problems out there in the country that are causing financial stress. I mean, in Nebraska, there's the numbers that we're hearing don't even come close to what the end number is going to be because of all the livestock that's been lost, all the grain that's been lost from bins that are collapsing. I mean, we're talking about not a 500-year flood. We're talking about a 1,000-year flood or never seen before, ever. So those are the situations that we're dealing with. So having said that, being declared disaster areas is one thing, but being able to utilize it or do anything is another. And so that causes a lot of stress on the farm, obviously. And so it's very, very important for our customers and our friends of all these people that are affected to recognize the symptoms of stress on the farm and help them get some relief. And so we're going to post on our website some numbers for managing stress on the farm or helping with stress on the farm, the symptoms that you to recognize, to help, and then get the information. So I think it's very, very important that we all kind of stick together in the ag community and help one another.
Oh, I agree, Turk. It's until a flood just lasts for a long time. I've been through a fire, and when we had our fire in 1985, it burned down. The next day, you can get the loaders out and you start cleaning up and you start feeling better because you're starting to get positive. But with flood, it just lingers and lingers and really pulls on the brain and the stress. So I just hope those folks out there get help if they feel the need to end it all, and we don't want to see that, and their loved ones got to keep an eye out.
Most likely, it won't be the individuals themselves that'll ever recognize it. It will be their friends and family.
Yeah.
So that's the important part here.
Yeah. Well, I remember reading about Franklin Delano Roosevelt during the heart of the Depression. He says, when you get to the end of your rope, tie a knot in it and hang on. And that's the advice that we'd give to our friends out that are in this situation right now. Is just hang on. Days are going to get better. Well, I appreciate that, Turk. That's a really good tip. I have just one thing to add this week. It was a instrumental, historical week for Mershman Seeds. We actually shipped our first load of commercial Enlist E3 soybeans. And if those of you that have been following us know that that's something that we've been from concept to final approval, which the last final approval just a few weeks ago came from the folks in the Philippines, the last grain export approval. And cleared away that we have everything ready to plant and start selling. So we did. And we like to have a shout out to John White at Lamont, Missouri, because he's actually going to be the customer that goes down in history as being the first to receive a commercial load of Enlist E3 soybeans, and it was hauled by our veteran driver Jim Frazee, who's been with us since 1972. So two big deals, customer receiving the beans and Jim being the driver that's literally delivered millions of bags of soybeans in his career here at Mershman Seeds. We're pretty excited about that. So that will be the first load of many, many to come. Now, if you're not familiar with Enlist E3, that's the brand new product that has resistance to 2,4-D choline, the new formulation of 2,4-D plus glyphosate and glufosinate. And that joins our other new trait that we're selling this year called LibertyLink GT27. And of course, that's a combination of LibertyLink, also glyphosate, and soon, we hope, to be approved Elite 27 herbicide, which is formerly called Balanced Bean. So that's what's going on my end. So
the dynamic dual.
The dynamic dual is right. And so we're pretty excited about that. So we just let farmers know that these traits are available and we are shipping them and we still have supply. So if you want, of both. So they definitely can try them. So if anything else, good. Well, hopefully Tom will be back next week after that big sale.
We'll ask him how he did on that sale.
Yeah, I'll ask him if he made the sale. That'd be great. Mm-hmm. And as always, thank you for listening and watching, and thank you for supporting Mershman Seeds, and we appreciate your business, and we'll see you next week.